Welcome back to Plant Soil Science Spotlight. My name is Josh Lofton, and we're here again with a graduate student within the Plant Soil Science Department. Elizabeth, why don't you tell me a little bit about yourself?
Yes, my name is Elizabeth Eickhoff, and I'm from Falls City, Nebraska. I grew up in kind of a rural community around there. I went on to my undergrad education at Northwest Missouri State University in Maryville, Missouri, where I pursued agronomy and ag business. After graduation there, I turned my interest to looking at grad school opportunities, which led me here to Oklahoma State University.
So I'll go back to growing up. So did you grow up around ag, or was your family involved in ag, or kind of what drew you to that going into undergraduate?
Sure, so both of my grandparents were row crop farmers and also raised a little bit of livestock on the side. So growing up, I was around that and always had fun being outdoors and being involved in that. I also was involved in 4-H and FFA, which really gave me my start to kind of push me towards the career route of agriculture.
It's always good hearing the 4-H and the FFA folks continue on. So what drew you out of the northern Great Plains and kind of here to Oklahoma? You said you looked at it for graduate school. What was it that kind of pushed you over the edge, if you will?
Sure. So I actually had a professor at Northwest Missouri State University who was an alum from Oklahoma State. So he kind of got me in contact with Dr. Ron at the time, and there happened to be an opening, and I was really wanting to kind of pursue a different environment and experience different cropping practices, so Oklahoma State seemed like the good fit for me.
So what was it about graduate school that kind of drew you? Why did you decide to continue your education?
Later on at my undergraduate career, I kind of got involved in a little bit of side research kind of projects just starting out, and I realized I really enjoyed that and wanted to pursue more of the research side of things. So graduate school gives me that opportunity to run some field trials and get that experience, and also continue to increase my knowledge in the ag industry.
So what about that next step, that diving off the deep end, if you will, and going into that PhD? What was the thought process there?
So after my master's that I completed here, I felt that I still had more to learn, and I really wanted to just continue to strengthen my skills in running trials and getting that data analyzed. So I felt that a PhD would be a good opportunity for me to get more experience with different crops and really kind of just work on strengthening a little bit more.
So your master's was here in Oklahoma. What did you look at in your master's program?
So my master's project actually was in sorghum, which was a new crop for me to experience, which I was excited about. We looked at different planting populations as well as different rates of applying urea in the furrow with that seed to see the impact of that.
Probably a lot to unpack from that one, but today we actually wanted to look at your PhD. Did you continue on in sorghum, or did we once again have a good change of crop?
So again, I wanted to kind of diversify myself, so my PhD projects center around wheat and soybeans.
So tell me a little bit about those projects, and let's start off with the wheat one, I guess.
Sure. So my wheat study is actually looking at nitrogen and phosphorus applications over time and that influence on yield. Soybeans, as far as that project goes, we're looking at evaluating the nodulation in soybeans and how that can maybe influence yield later on.
So being a soybean guy myself, I'm going to hang on to that one for a little bit. We all know soybean are a leguminous plant and form those nodules as that symbiotic relationship. So how are you actually managing the nodules? What are you guys looking at?
So the goal in this study is to use inoculants and also a nutrient seed treatment source, molybdenum, and see how those can possibly improve our nodulation and see what effect those have.
So I'll go back to the molybdenum. So what is it about molybdenum that's of interest in the nodulation process?
So molybdenum is a micronutrient needed in little quantities in the plant, and it's actually very critical in the fact that it is an essential component of the enzyme nitrogenase, which is important in that nitrogen fixation process within that plant.
So with the inoculum and the nutrient seed treatment, are you seeing any benefit there to denodulation, the thing you're looking for?
Sure, we've got 1 year of data in from last year, and we did notice that the use of molybdenum and inoculants generally improved the nodule numbers on the plants compared to those check treatments where no seed treatment was applied. So that was really exciting to see.
Well, that's good. Something really to look forward to in the future as you start getting more yield components in there and starting looking at that further. So we'll go back to your wheat study, looking at nitrogen and phosphorus application. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Sure. So that actually is kind of a long-term study where we're looking at over 20 years of data. That's been going on continuously in that project. And we're trying to see what soil moisture and maybe the rainfall and environmental impacts can have on a data set like that during a long-term trial.
It's very interesting because I know the soil fertility program here at Oklahoma State does a lot of work with long-term trials. So as opposed to some agronomic trials that are just a couple of years and we can make recommendations, what is the value of a long-term trial?
So the value of long-term trials, which we have a few, scattered throughout the state, looking at different nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium rates over time, is just really being able to look at trends over time where we can really incorporate that environmental factor. So that way we can get better recommendations and look at how those can improve.
Just allow us to kind of have a different perspective, if you will,
Sure.
and look at some of those other things. Well, it's been a pleasure talking with you here today, Elizabeth. Thank you for joining us, and thank you for joining us, and come back next time to where we'll be discussing more topics with some of our graduate students in the Plant Soil Science Department.